Good afternoon, grade 11s. This is your IT lesson. I hope that you are doing well and that you are working hard at the moment. I know that there is a problem with Google Classroom at the moment. If you are trying to submit any work, a lot of students have let me know that there's a problem and it's not allowing them to. I will send an email to Google Classroom to find out what it is. So please just hold on to your work for a couple of days and then you can submit it afterwards. Okay. Okay, so today what we are going to work on is arrays. So it's a new section that we are starting with. Let me just get to the beginning. And it is chapter 7 in the Study Opportunities textbook and unit 3.1 in the DBE MTN textbooks. Okay, remember I'm working from both of these textbooks and I have the data, so I will upload, if it's necessary, I will upload the data for you. Okay. Just going to activate the chat here. So if anyone has a question, you are welcome to ask. Okay, let's begin by understanding what an array is. In many applications, large amounts of data need to be stored and accessed randomly. While it might be possible to create a variable for each data item that needs to be stored, such as a website's username or password, this could cause a number of issues, including it may require, good afternoon, Mashoto, welcome, it's good to have you here. I'm busy working through arrays today, so you can take notes on this. I'm working from the DBE textbook and the study opportunities. Okay, so I've said here, while it might be possible to create a variable for each data item that needs to be stored, this, such as your usernames and passwords, that this may cause a number of issues. For example, it may require you to create thousands or even millions of variables, okay? You would need to update the code of your application and manually create new variables every time your data changes, okay? Or a new person registers on your website. Now, let's take the Cornerstone YouTube channel, okay? This started about a week and a half ago, and in that span of time, over 200 people have subscribed to the channel, okay? So imagine that every single time a new person subscribed, I would have to create a new variable, okay? Since each of these variables are independent of the others and have unique names, there is no easy way to loop through all of them. So instead of creating separate variables for each item, this chapter will teach you how to create an array that can store multiple values in the same structure. Now, what is an array? An array is a fancy word for saying a list. It's a list of things. Okay. So let's take a look at some of the new words that you're going to come across. Homogeneous. I hope I said that correctly. Elements of the same type. So now, very importantly, what you're going to learn is when I'm dealing with arrays, I have to have my variables and the data I'm working with has to be of the same data type. I cannot mix integers and strings or chars and strings, okay? It must be the same type. The next important part of an array is I need an index. This is the position of the element in an array. So how do I know when it is an index? Simply, as you've already done with radio group, as soon as there are square brackets, you know that it is an index. Then array. An array is a data structure that stores a set of values or elements of the same type, for example, strings, linked to a single variable name. Okay. So in grade 11, you're going to start with one-dimensional arrays. So that is just a straight list. Let's see, think of some examples of lists. The days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. These do not change, okay? The other ones, an array of days in the month, 1 to 30 or 1 to 31, depending on which month you are choosing. You can have months of the year. Any fixed numbers or constants that you're going to be using, you can use in your arrays. We will be discussing fixed and non-fixed at a point, but basically it is a list of things. So an array is a data structure that stores a set of values of the same type, homogeneous, linked to a single variable name. During this year, we will be working with one-dimensional 1D arrays. When you get to grade 12, it's very exciting. We do 2D arrays. So you say, what is a 2D array? Think back to grade 2, grade 3, when you got times tables, okay? So basically what a 2D array is: a set of columns and a set of rows that match together. So when you looked at your 12 times table and you had 1 times 1, 1 times 2, 1 times 3, that is a 2D array. So I have to read 2 coordinates. You've actually been doing it in maths without realizing it when you were doing graphs. Okay. So one-dimensional array contains only one row for storing data. The elements in an array are ordered. The ordering property implies that the first, second, etc., last element can be identified and referenced. So let us take a look at this picture. Here I've got an index of names. Now, you will see here are names. I'm going to get to the prefixes shortly, but let's first look at. So I've got Arhan, Joyce, Peter, Andile, and Zingle. Okay, so Arhan is in position 1. So the index here would be 1. Joyce is going to be position 2 or index 2. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to ask on the group chat. I will be checking that periodically. Okay. Let's get to our next slide here. So before we carry on, we're just going to pay attention to a few things when declaring our arrays. The name of the array is R names. I'm not a pirate, okay? It is just the shortened version of arrays, okay? So R names, we add the prefix R to the name of the array. A meaningful name, which is dependent on the contents it holds, should be given to the array. So you've probably heard me speaking. I used to have a student that would make up the most weirdest and wonderful names, but the problem with it is trying to read his code later. It didn't always make sense because his naming wasn't linked to what it was, what it was supposed to be doing. Okay, so this array contains elements of data type string. You can also use arrays of data type integer, real, or char, your character. Then, index refers to the position of the element in an array. So what position in my array am I looking for? So say I want to know what position Wednesday is in my week, my array of week. And my week starts on Monday. So it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3. Okay. An element in the array is referenced using the name of the array and its index position within square brackets. For example, R names 2 would refer to the second element, Joyce. R name 4 refers to the fourth element, Andile. Okay, so that's pretty standard. It's not too difficult to understand. Now, declaring my array. Just like a variable, an array must be declared before it can be used. So here is an example of an array. So our name, type array, so you have to put the word array before, then whatever your index is going to be, so 1 to 6 of type, okay? Sorry. So, or it could be, I can either use 1.6, so saying 1 to 6, or I can place the words in with commas in between. So the reserved word array indicates that it is an array data structure. So remember when we did text files and you had to declare that it was a text file. So here you've got your start index and your last index. This indicates the size of the array. Your start index indicates the starting position of the index, and the last index indicates the last position. Okay, that's not too difficult to understand. So let's take a look at these. Array 1 to 10. Okay, so that would be 1 to 10. So 10 numbers, or 21 to 30. Or I can use letters, capital letters. Now pay attention here. This is where Delphi is case sensitive. So if I am typing in capital letters, it is not going to be able to find small letters, and vice versa. So the other thing is your letters must be in single quotes to define a string. So A to J indicates that the array will hold 10 elements of data type. Okay, everyone still with me? That is great. I'm so glad to see so many of you in the class this afternoon. I was a little worried with Google Classroom struggling a bit at the moment. So as I stated in the beginning, if you are struggling to submit, please just hold on to your work for a couple of days, save it into your Google Drive or onto your device. I will message Google Classroom. It's not just our classes, it's coming across the school that a lot of people are struggling to submit. So I will message them and find out what is going on. Okay, now we're going to look at the word type. So this refers to the data type of the elements in the array. Remember that all the elements in the array must be of the same data type. I can't go string integer char or string boolean integer. So this can be strings, integers, reals, or even components like labels or images. So say, for example, in your pet, you wanted to have an array of images displaying. You could actually create the array and name them inside your various pictures inside the array and randomize it so that they display at different times, maybe on your home page or something like that, just to make it interesting. So each element is referenced by the name of the array followed by its index position. For example, our name index 3. Our name I, where I is the range 1 to last index. So I is a general term. So depending, especially in loops, where it is going to be, it will be 1 to the final value in your index. Delphi has a feature that allows you to check whether you are within a range of the array by adding. Now you may have seen this in your code when you started working with Delphi and you've never actually known why or where. It is just over there. Okay, so you've got your $R star.dfm. This represents your Delphi form. And then here, if you suddenly see a $R plus, that is going to indicate that there is an array. So this is an instruction to the compiler to do range checking. So it's going to work through all of it to check for all the values that are indicated in your array. Okay. Remember, an integer variable declared non-locally, otherwise known as globally or publicly. Okay, so let's just quickly backtrack. When I write a procedure and I write to declare a variable, that variable can only be accessed by that procedure. Okay, if I want the rest of that unit to be able to read that procedure, I'm going to declare it under the private section. And if I declare it globally, you may not yet be using it, but soon we are going to start with classes, your object-oriented programming. And there, globally means when I have multiple forms, then I will declare my variable once, and all the forms will be able to reference that particular variable. Okay, so let's just go through this again. An integer variable declared non-locally or globally will by default be assigned 0. Okay, so range check error will appear if you try and access an element outside the index range. Now let's quickly backtrack to the previous slide here, the A to J. I know A to J, there are 10 values. Now, what happens if I entered K? Then what is going to happen is I am going to get a range, an error message defined telling me that I have tried to declare something outside the specified range. The elements of the integer array declared non-locally or globally will by default be assigned 0. The elements of an integer array declared locally will by default be assigned random values. Okay, so these are just things that you need to know. The elements of a string array will by default be assigned null values. Okay, however, it is good practice to initialize the values of an array. So the same as when you're dealing with a counter, you're going to set your count or initialize, instantiate your counter before the time. So for example, count equals or count assign 0. Okay, and then from there on I will use count and do a calculation. The same here, it is better that you will declare your array before the time so that it has something to work with. Okay. Declaring and populating an array simultaneously. Okay, so you can declare and populate an array at the same time. Like variable declarations, an array can be a constant array or an array where elements can vary. Okay, so my days of my week are constant. I don't go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, fun day. Okay, as much as I would like an extra day to my weekend, I can't suddenly go and say, I declare there's an extra day to the weekend. It's called fun day. There are now 8 days of the week. Okay, so sometimes you will have your set, your constant arrays, and other times your elements can vary. So let's see how to declare and populate a constant array. You can declare a constant array, which means the elements in this array cannot be modified. So I cannot change it, it is fixed. The constant declaration can be declared locally or globally. So for example, are days. Don't forget your word array. Then I know there are 7 days, 1 to 7 of string. Now do you see here? So what I do is I first declare my elements. Now I need to go and assign my elements. So Sunday would be 1, Monday 2, Tuesday 3, until Saturday being 7. Or I can do array months, or array 1 to 12 of string, Jan, Feb, March, April, up to December. Okay, so these are constants, they're not going to change. So these are typical things that you will be able to use. So start thinking in your PAT, what can I declare as a constant array that is not going to change. Maybe if you've got a hotel, the number of rooms you have or beds per room could be constant. Okay, so you can set it 2 or maybe make it 4 depending, or you can have a floor with a set amount of rooms. In an aeroplane, you can't suddenly put extra seats in. Okay, I can't come bring my baby seat and put it in the aisle and make an additional number there. Okay, so your plane, you can use an array of seats. So just on the topic of the plane, 2D arrays is not part of the grade 11 curriculum. If you decide to try and work out how to do 2D arrays and implement that into your code, remember, that is the part of the code that there's a certain amount of marks that you get awarded if you've done something which I don't teach you in class, and that is not part of the grade 11 curriculum. So if you had an aeroplane, remember you've got rows, seats in rows, and there are different rows, so A to J, and A1, A2, A3, A4. So that's something that you can think of, play around with. If you wanted to look for a code that was not part of your curriculum, you could try and implement a 2D array. Okay, so declaring and populating a non-constant array. So this is something that can change. The elements in this array can be modified, and this array can be declared locally or globally. So what we have here is our names array 1 to 6 of string. So all I know is there are 6 elements, and then I'm going to declare what each of those elements are. So Tom, Jerry, Mickey, Mouse, Daisy, Donald. So you can make it anything. I can make it colors: pink, blue, orange, green, white, purple, anything. You can make the array whatever you want under the sun. Or array 1 to 10 if it was points. So what could be nice here if you had symbols, like 80% would be an A, 70% would, so here you are combining, so 70 to 79 would be a B, and you could declare a lot like a case statement. Now this is the other thing. There are 3 ways to declare. I can either use a nested if, okay, so an if within a if within a if within a if, or I can use a case statement, or I can use an array. So now the question is, when do I use which one? Okay, so you're going to look at the question in your exam. If it specifically is an array question, then it is better to use an array. But if they don't specify, then you can use a case statement. Just make sure that you use it correctly. And sometimes an array is easier to use than a case statement. Okay, so let's get back to 1 to 10. It can be any values. As you can see, 56, 45, 78, they're not even in order. Okay. Later on, I'm going to teach you how to sort your array so that your numbers could be in ascending or descending order. Okay. Okay, then populating an array. So assigning values to an array in a specific position. So the statements below demonstrate how elements in an array are assigned. So value are assigned values. So R names 1, R1, or R value index 7 could be the square root of 5. R num people could be I count, the index I count, assigned the value 6. R max 4I, so that is 1 to my last index. R max main for I plus 1. So whatever it was, plus 1 to the end to get to the next part. R mark, index 4, and then whatever was written in my edit box, my user entered words, would then be assigned to a specific value. So this example here is you can say in your program, please enter your mark for the last test. And you would enter a mark, and whatever it was written, it is going to go into an array. So what you could do is, say for example, you want to work out your year's percentage. So you're going to tell the user to enter in for each position, so from test 1 up to the final exam, your different marks, and then you will create an array of test marks. Okay, reading data into the elements of an array from the user. To add values into an array, an input box. Okay, so can you remember how to use an input box? Now, it has how many parameters? 3 parameters. Your first parameter is going to be the name of the input box. The second parameter is going to be the instruction to your user. And the third parameter is what they're going to fill in. So normally we leave that blank. So let's see here. And do you see that I'm using a for loop here? For 1 to 5 do. Go and read the scores. So it is a scores input box. I'm trying to find out your scores. My instruction says enter the score which you received. And the edit box inside the input box is empty, where the user is going to. So whatever number or value the user enters here, I want to write it into my array. Okay, remember, I need to convert string to int. By using the input box with an array and a for loop, you can ask the user to enter a value for each element of the array. So let's go back to our tests. So if I say to you, you need to work out your year's average. So take all your tests and divide it, read it into your program, and then you're going to do a calculation to work out your percentage. Okay. And just so that you know, there's no limit on how many input boxes you can have. You can have as many as you need. So if there were 10 tests, you can create 10 input boxes. Okay. Okay, guys, that is up to where we are going to get today. I hope that you are excited about arrays. Let me just stop sharing my screen here. Okay, so I hope that you are excited about arrays. It is really a very nice way to work with. It's a fun way to code. It makes life much easier than trying to create a variable for every single thing. Okay, so get excited. Go and read a bit, read up on this. We're going to carry on with arrays tomorrow, where we will actually start working with arrays. Okay. Thank you for always like sticking it out up to 4 o'clock. I know how tired I am, so you must, I can just imagine how tired you are. So go take a break, go put your feet up, go and make a cup of coffee or something, and just take a break before you do any other work tonight. Okay, have a great time. See you same place, same time tomorrow. On Thursday. I'll see you on Thursday again. Bye-bye, everyone.